Hey, Husker fans, welcome to another episode of the Husker Big Red podcast with Chris Peterson and Danny Gillette. As always, go Big Red. Hello, Husker fans, and welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel and another episode of the Husker Big Red podcast. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me, as always, is Danny Gillette. And we're back here for another episode, and we're not going to waste too much time here. Danny, how you doing, though, this morning?
Tired. It's rainy. I wish I could have gotten a few more hours of sleep, but you know what? You don't sleep on early National Signing Day week. It's become a thing, and I think Nebraska is going to be busy as Wednesday approaches and on Wednesday.
It is going to be a busy day. It's going to be, I think, a tense few days here for Nebraska football fans. So, yeah, let's dive right into it. I know everybody wants to talk about Dylan Raiola. That's, topic 1 through 100 right now with Nebraska football fans. Obviously, yesterday we had the volleyball match. Didn't go, our way for Husker Nation. We got a big win for the basketball team. And now it's time to focus everything on recruiting. Dylan Raiola was in Lincoln this weekend. He was at the wrestling match, at a women's basketball game. We saw him with Malachi Coleman. We saw him basically all over Lincoln, but still no commitment. And then, word from Steve Wiltfong of 24/7 that he's still communicating with Georgia, still talking with Georgia over the weekend. So what's your confidence level right now with Dylan Raiola as we sit here, Monday morning?
It's still pretty high. I think if he didn't want to be committed to Nebraska, or at least didn't didn't think Nebraska was a viable option, he wouldn't be here. But I mean, Georgia is going to make a push until you know early national signing day is over, and probably, quite honestly, beyond. I'm still confident. I would just like to see the announcement happen, and that would make me feel a little bit better about where things stand.
Yeah, there was, rumors of it happening Sunday. I didn't think it was going to happen Sunday just because of the volleyball. I didn't see him, releasing the timeline of the same, as the same day as the volleyball match. That was just my thought. Not that, maybe he doesn't care about that at all, but it just didn't seem like the right day to try to announce anything. And I don't know if I'm not sure what the plan is going to be at this point. If he's just going to sign with Nebraska or Georgia, if he's going to have some type of announcement video, if it's going to be so I'm really not sure. I know I saw a Hayes Fawcett tweet to buckle up, and that's a bunch of guys, a bunch of 5-stars are thinking about, flipping this week. So it could be a really interesting week. I'm pretty confident. I feel like he wasn't going to, if he wasn't going to commit to Nebraska, he wouldn't have, taken this trip. And just because
Right.
Georgia's communicating with him doesn't necessarily mean, doesn't mean that much. I mean, I don't think he's not going to ghost Kirby Smart if he's trying to talk to him or whatever, but Georgia, he could have already practiced with Georgia at Orange Bowl practices today. Like, he should be with them today. That was the original plan. So, I mean, it's not like he still can't go back on it, but yeah, the next few days are going to be interesting, and hopefully he will sign on the dotted line Wednesday, and then it's all over and done, and he's a Husker, and he'll be enrolling early, but everything seems to be pointing in that direction. I
He's
mean,
a
and if
Husker when
not,
he takes the field. Let's be clear on that. When he takes the field and he shows up in our uniform, that's when I'll fully believe that he's a Husker.
well, I mean, he's gonna. Yeah, I mean, I'll believe it when he signs on.
Yeah.
I mean, when he signs on Wednesday, if he signs his letter of intent, I mean, I really don't think he's asking out of it. I really don't see that happening.
He's already done this multiple times. Well, he's
Yeah,
committed
but
multiple times. He hasn't signed a letter of intent, but
I really don't see him. I mean, yeah, maybe he transfers or something, but I don't see him asking out of his letter of intent. In the next few months. That would be I mean, there's never been a 5-star quarterback that's done that. Xavier Worthy did it a few years ago at Michigan. But yeah, I would be stunned if he did that. And really, I mean, and if Dominic Raiola really loves this program, I mean, it would be a kick right in the nuts to bring his kid here and then to have all this visit happen, blow up the Kyle McCord thing, and then not come to Nebraska. I mean, it would be like this if Dylan Raiola doesn't commit to Nebraska, like, this is the biggest shot to the nuts Nebraska football recruiting has ever had in the history of Nebraska football.
I agree. And I don't think Dominic Raiola is necessarily easy to deal with right now, but we'll see if the younger Raiola can sign on the dotted line come Wednesday. Because quite honestly, There were reports that Kyle McCord's father was a little bit too involved, and you know, as much as Kyle McCord would have been a good addition, I give a lot of credit to Matt Rule for saying thanks but no thanks.
I think at the end of the day, he just didn't guarantee him a starting job. Essentially, I don't necessarily think that he was just like, no, I don't want your commitment. I think that he basically was like, I'm not going to guarantee you the starting job. And Kyle McCord wasn't going to go anywhere where he wasn't guaranteed the job. So that's what I think happened. I really don't think that Matt Rule was like, no, we don't want you at all here. I think it was more of the situation didn't line up with the way that the McCords wanted it to. So I'd be really surprised
Right.
if Matt was like, I don't want you on the roster.
Yeah, no, I don't think he said, "No, I don't want you," like, whatever. I just think it necessarily wasn't a team fit and a culture fit, um, as far as McCord is concerned. So,
Well, I mean, I don't know if I would. I mean, I think if Dylan Raiola wasn't making this visit, I think Kyle McCord would already be committed, and Julian Fleming would be committed too. So, I mean, I just think that basically Kyle McCord wants somewhere where he's going to be the unquestioned starter, and that wasn't going to be at Nebraska. And so, I mean, he went to Syracuse now, which is, I mean, frankly, it's a joke. I mean, that's not a
yep.
program that has, it'll be good for him, but I mean, it's close to home. But yeah, he clearly didn't want, he was afraid of any type of competition. So, I mean that doesn't really make me sad about missing out on Kyle McCord. If you're afraid of competing with a 5-star freshman, then you probably don't. You're probably not right for this job.
And, Danny Kaelin is not afraid of competition. I'm very happy that he canceled his Michigan State visit over the weekend. He was working out with Thomas Fedoni and Devon Hall on Friday night, and he appears to be all in still. So I'm very happy about that. I mean, it's pretty impressive when you can get two Elite 11 finalists in your quarterback room. Quite the change up from even just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, it's good that they got Daniel Kaelin in there. I think that's smart, and I think it's smart on his part because, like I said, going to Michigan State, literally laid it out last week that how Nebraska was the best fit for him because if he goes to Michigan State, he's sitting behind Aiden Chili's for 3 years. I mean, that's unless that guy goes pro in two, he's not playing over him. There's just no way. And I mean, and sure, he could compete or whatever, but there's no clear path to playing time in East Lansing, not any clearer than it is in Nebraska. And he could beat out Dylan Raiola potentially. There's no, I mean, I don't necessarily think he will, but there's certainly an opportunity. And for Nebraska, the ideal situation is to have Dylan come and play for 3 years, go to the NFL, and then Daniel Kaelin redshirt a year, and then kind of sit for 2 years, and then bam, he's the starter for 2 years. I think that is the ideal situation for Nebraska. And I get that it might be hard to sell, Daniel Kaelin on that. But if you look at the landscape of college football, it is definitely changing at the quarterback position. If you look at just the 2023 class right now in terms of quarterbacks, almost every single one of them is in the transfer portal. Malachi Nelson hit the transfer portal yesterday because USC is bringing in Will Howard, and he doesn't want to sit and try to compete against Will Howard. I mean, Dante Moore's in the transfer portal. There's just a bunch of guys. I mean, Aiden Chili's, who was a top 7 guys in the transfer portal. So you've got almost more than half of like the top 5 or 6 guys who signed just last year are already in the portal. Arch Manning's not playing until 2025. He's sitting on the bench for 2 years. So, I mean, you're talking about some of the best, quarterbacks in college football. I mean, Dante Moore, who was the number 2 quarterback in all
Yep.
college football last year, is talking about going to like Oregon or somewhere so he can basically have a redshirt year. So, these quarterbacks, I think what's happened is they're getting all this NIL money and they think they need to play right away, but they're not ready. I mean, just because you get, $3, $4, $5 million in NIL does not make you ready to play college football at the quarterback position. And teams are realizing that. And then the older quarterbacks are, like the Will Howards of the world, they're leaving Kansas State and going to some of these bigger programs. So I think it's going to be harder for quarterbacks to come in and play right away. And I think that is one reason maybe that Dylan Raiola is coming to Nebraska because it's one of the rare programs that actually, that opportunity is pretty readily available.
And you're seeing, Nebraska offer some of his, you know, teammates as well. They offered one of them was a 4-star offensive lineman, Braden Jacobs, class of 2025, and I know there's a couple more names out there that they offered. I don't remember them at the moment, but it's clear that they want to kind of build around Raiola. And hey, any 4-star offensive lineman that wants to come to Nebraska, I'm definitely for it.
Yeah, and there was some other, four-star or some. Well, yeah, there was a four-star linebacker on campus with Dylan Williams. Larry Shavers, I want to say, is the other one from Miami. He's been,
Vincent Shavers, but yeah,
Vincent Shavers. Yeah, so he's been, crystal ball to Nebraska. I really don't see them getting both of those guys. I mean, it's possible they get Dylan Williams. He just visited Arizona too. He's committed to Oregon. Um, but yeah, it would be nice to add those guys. I don't really see, you know, I honestly don't see a ton of fireworks for Nebraska on signing day outside of the Dylan Raiola thing. I mean, Shavers, would be nice, and maybe they get the kid from Maryland,
Larry
the Larry
Tarver.
Tarver. But I mean, he's ranked. I mean, to me, there's not that much difference between him and Amari Sanders. I mean, Tarver's ranked like 1,000th, so it's not like he's some top 100 guy they're flipping. I mean, I still would be happy about it, but basically the signing day, it's either does Dylan Raiola sign or not. That's really the only storyline that matters for Nebraska.
Well, that's the thing with me too. It's not a question of who else will they land on signing day. For me, it's just about making sure everybody signs on the dotted line because it's never over till it's over. And as long as everybody signs on the dotted line, then we can all breathe a little sigh of relief.
Yeah, I don't. I think everybody will. I mean, the entire coaching staff, went to Ainsworth on Saturday to see Carter Nelson, so that was important to lock that up. They've been around all their commitments. They saw Willis McGahee. He was tweeting about. He tweeted the TO yesterday. That's my quarterback meme. I don't know if that was a shot to or a hint to Raiola. There's been a lot of hints towards Dylan Raiola, but until he actually publicly says it and signs, it's still up in the air. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to come today or if we're going to have to wait. I'm not sure how he's going to,
I think we're gonna
how he's
wait.
going to play it out.
I think we're gonna wait. People were like, "Oh, all these memes and nothing happened," and blah blah blah. You're gonna see, I think, stuff on Wednesday. You're gonna see stuff trickle in on Wednesday.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I would hope that he, would at least have a time or get, I mean, it has to be done on Wednesday. If it's not done on Wednesday, then he's not coming here. I mean,
Right, yeah, but
so
I mean, I don't think you're gonna see anything between, this weekend. I mean, I originally thought maybe Sunday night, but it appears everything's gonna happen on Wednesday, whatever it may be.
yeah, we'll see. It will be interesting, but yeah, it would be great if the Huskers can get Raiola and Kaelin in the quarterback room for the future. Yeah, I really don't I don't see him adding a transfer portal quarterback if they sign Raiola and Chuba. I mean, excuse me, and Daniel Kaelin on Wednesday. I really don't. I know there's a lot of rumors about Casey Thompson, but like, what's the point of that? I really I don't understand any point of bringing in Casey Thompson for a single play. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's coming off another knee injury. The guy can't stay healthy for one thing. I mean, it's just to me, if you sign Dylan Raiola, you make him your starting quarterback day one, and you just build around him, and you go through whatever growing pains are going to happen, and you just prepare and build your team that way. You still got Chuba Purdy, who I think healthy is probably a better fit for this offense than Casey Thompson anyway. So I really hope that Casey Thompson stuff is just fake. I mean, or I just that would make zero sense to me.
I mean, I honestly wouldn't mind Casey Thompson in this offense because if you remember when he was here, he mostly stayed in the pocket. So I think I think that's what they want to get to because even when Nebraska was recruiting Kyle McCord, I mean Kyle McCord can run, but he's not much of a runner. Thompson, can run, but wasn't much of a runner. So I think he would be a fit for the offense, but I don't see any reason to necessarily bring him back. I think all those rumors were exactly that.
I mean, maybe he's coming back to finish his degree. I mean, if you want to bring him back to be like a graduate assistant or something, like I'm fine with that. But he just had a season-ending injury, so I mean, I doubt he's even going to be able to practice this spring. So I feel it's a total. You'd be giving him. I mean, you could be giving him reps and snaps that should be going to Dylan and Kaelin and to. It's just a waste of every. It would be a waste of everybody's time. It would hinder everybody's development for a guy that's probably going to get hurt 2 games in anyway. So I mean, it's just if that's a consideration, I think that's one of the dumbest moves Nebraska could make personally.
It's also worth noting that Nebraska target Alex Mansky got an offer from Texas A&M on Sunday, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But Mansky's stock is rising as well. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. and I know Nebraska is really pushing for him, but we'll see how that shakes out. It would be a bummer not to land him because he's a good quarterback, but I mean, it'll just be interesting to see. I thought the Texas A&M offer was definitely notable.
Yeah, and it's they have a former Husker staffer, Christian Ellsworth, that is on their staff, and Colin Klein obviously is their new offensive coordinator, so he's got a lot of ties to the Midwest. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, that's definitely going to open your eyes, as Alex Mansky, but we'll see. I think Nebraska's done a good job, and it just depends on how everything works out. But sometimes, it is, if you add two quarterbacks, it might make him pause a little bit when you look at the A&M room going
Understandably.
forward.
Yeah,
So,
understandably.
but I mean, and it's going to be. I feel like, yeah, if Nebraska does get Dylan Raiola, maybe it's going to hurt their chances, with Mansky a little bit, just because, where's he gonna, kind of fit into things. The 2025 quarterback recruiting might be a little difficult for Nebraska. Just because that quarterback is then going to have to sit there and be like, well, I'm sitting behind all of these guys for the next couple of years. So, but it's not like Mansky's super highly rated. So I do think Nebraska is still in a good spot, and we'll see if he gets to College Station or not for a visit this spring. That would be telling is in terms of how serious the Aggies are in his recruitment.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you recruit these unranked players who have a lot of upside, this is what you have to deal with. I mean, we've mentioned before, Kawan Lacey was a perfect example of, a guy that fit that mold. And when you recruit with some of the bigger teams, these are the issues that you're going to have. And I would rather take on the bigger teams than lose out to a smaller school.
We should note, so on the transfer portal side of things, there was a couple of things that happened, this weekend. One is Blinn Hill. He was on campus. He's been projected to the Huskers. He's a 6'3" cornerback. Essentially, he played at St. Francis last year. St. Francis, PA, in the FCS. Had 6 pass breakups, 2 interceptions. He's got 3 crystal balls now to Nebraska. So I see him being here. I think that would be a great fit with the secondaries as we kind of laid out. You've got Tommy Hill, you've got Hartsock, you've got Singleton, Buford, Gifford, and if you add another guy that can play cornerback, I think that really solidifies this group going into next
That's a
season.
solid
Without
secondary. Yeah.
and then you've got a lot of the young guys too that are still can make an impact. So I feel like that gives them a good layer of depth. And then if some of those young guys can break through, then we could have some really interesting competitions in the secondary going into next fall.
Absolutely, and I think corner depth has been a problem in past years, and I don't think it's going to be next year, obviously. And I think it's important to build corner depth, especially when you take a look at the teams coming into the conference and how some of them, like Washington and Oregon, for example, may tend to be a bit more pass happy than we're used to seeing. So you can never have too much corner depth. And, I think the Hill news combined with Vincent Shavers. Shavers is a really good linebacker. Uh, he's one of those guys that's underrated because the state of, Florida is so big. But, I think Shavers would be a great addition too. And I know he got some crystal balls over the weekend as well.
And then another, I guess, a running back update. Nebraska is going to be
This was
hosting
interesting. Yeah.
Dante Dowell, a former Oregon running back from he entered. He was basically a 2023 running back. I don't think he played at all. So he was 139th in the On3 industry rankings. Is in the transfer portal now, and is going to be visiting Nebraska next month. And you can't visit until after January 3rd. He did visit Mississippi State already, so it's not like Nebraska's the only team in the mix. And let's see, he is from, I think he actually is from Mississippi too, Pecune. Yeah, so he's from Mississippi. So that'll be kind of an interesting battle there. I mean, not sure if Ole Miss is going to be interested because they seem to be getting everybody in the transfer portal. But this would be, I don't know that I would look at this as say like this guy's going to be an immediate starter or anything, but I definitely think that it would be a replacement for not getting somebody in the 2024 class, because I believe you would still have 4 years of eligibility. So you'd be getting essentially a 4-star talent who's a redshirt freshman. So Emmett Johnson this past season, you'd be getting that here with this Oregon back.
And we need depth at running back. I mean, yes, we have some names now for next year. Ramir Johnson, Emmett Johnson, Quentin Ives, Connor Booth, I believe. Is Connor Booth this year too? Like coming in this
No,
year?
he's the
Or is he
2025.
2025?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
2025.
So, I think, this would be another good get for the running back room because as we saw last year, you can never have too much depth. I mean, once the injuries start piling up, depth goes quickly, and I think adding another running back to the class would definitely help the program.
Yeah, I definitely think they need another running back
They
because I
do.
mean, right now they're really thin. Emmett Johnson. I mean, really Emmett Johnson and Gabe Ervin. I mean, and then you just don't have anybody that's reliable that can stay. Raheem Johnson can't stay healthy. Gabe Ervin can't stay healthy. So you're really you're risking a lot if you don't add somebody in the transfer portal and maybe a couple. I would like to see him add more of a veteran guy, but I understand where Matt Rule is coming from with this kid, and he is a pretty talented kid, and maybe they feel good at least with Emmett Johnson as their starter, but I would like to see somebody that's been a little more proven because I have a lot of I don't want to see the running back room go the way that it did last year.
Honestly, just get a body in here. I don't care if it's proven or not. Just get another guy in here so Emmett Johnson doesn't have to rush for 5,000 yards next year. And because I love Gabe Ervin, I love Ramir Johnson. I'm not trying to take shots at them, but their health just throughout their careers has been a concern. And at this point, you can't really rely on them to stay healthy. They're good backs, but the health is just too big a concern. We've seen it, far too often, unfortunately. And I feel bad for them because I know they want to be out there and play, but you know, you just can't rely on them for an entire season. So, I definitely understand your point about wanting a proven back, but at this point, I'd take any sort of depth that we can have.
And then the last thing, Nebraska is still apparently in the mix for Julian Fleming. I really don't see them, having much of a chance, but it could, maybe if they get Dylan Raiola, maybe that will flip it a little bit. All the expert projections are kind of pointing in that direction. So Nebraska, another receiver too, Donovan McCauley, he was from Indiana. He decided to withdraw from the portal and go back to Indiana. So essentially, the receiver board, I mean, unless Fleming, does an about face, they're going to have to kind of reset there. And that's still, I think, a big need for Nebraska going forward in the portal.
I don't know because we still have Malachi Coleman, obviously Jalen Lloyd, Jaden Doss, Demetrius Bell. They are a bit unproven, but if we get a good quarterback in there and a quarterback that can throw the ball downfield, I think our need for a veteran wide receiver, as much as one would help, I think that may give us a better idea of where we stand. And I'll just be honest here. When I saw Danny Kaelin working out with Fedoni and Hall on Friday in the video, I forgot what an overhand throwing motion looks like. Just the way he threw the football, I was like, wow, like this is what it looks like when you have a quarterback that can literally throw the ball overhand. So, I mean, I understand definitely a veteran wide receiver would be nice, but given that the quarterback play is going to be better than last year, in my opinion, I'm willing to go in with the guys that we have because I do think there's a lot of potential there. And heck, I'm probably forgetting some names at the position right now that haven't even made an impact yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, you got Coleman and Lloyd and Doss, that can play. I really think they need to add somebody on the outside of Malachi, just a physical, because I just don't know that Doss and Lloyd can play that outside position. So I don't know anybody else on the roster that can really. I mean, so yeah, they've got to add somebody that, in my opinion, that's 6'3", 6'2", can go up and get the ball because right now they pretty much just got Malachi. So at any rate, we'll see, what that leads to. We'll be, following things going up into signing day. So make sure that you guys, are following along. I think we'll probably put together a stream on Wednesday to kind of recap things that are happening. Maybe,
Yeah,
around new time, somewhere around there after
yeah.
some of the news is kind of coming in. So thanks for stopping by again this morning, you guys. Make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you're checking out huskerbigred.com as well for constant updates on
Can we
Nebraska football.
mention basketball and volleyball real quick, or do we have time?
I got to get rolling. So,
Gotta get rolling. But okay,
yep.
shout out to the basketball team, and volleyball's got a bright future for the coming years. So
Yeah, as long as they get everybody, as long as everybody comes back, I have no
yeah,
doubt that they'll be in the national championship game again
it was a
next year.
tough
So
one, but they'll be back under the lights soon.
sometimes it's you gotta. Then they were playing the defending champs who had 12 starters returning. So
Yeah,
6 freshmen, and it's like it's like the Chicago Bulls when they lost to they lost to the Pistons a few times. Next year they're going to win the championship. So
that's a good
and
analogy.
I liked Harper Murray's comment that they're going to win 3 in a row, and then Becca Alex, I'll fuck yeah, excuse me language, but so yeah, we're going to win 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, this team is built for the long haul, and we'll see what they can do next year. And just real quick on the basketball win yesterday, I believe that's now 3 quad one wins. That was a big win in in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, that was a big win. So now they've got 2 more bye games before Big Ten play. So
I
yeah,
think
it's
they're
a
ready
good
for Big
time.
Ten play.
Yeah, they're looking like a Big Ten contender. So lots of exciting stuff to follow there. Make sure you guys are checking out HuskerBigRed.com for all the latest updates. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.